Good morning, Michigan. A very pure Michigan Monday to you. It's Michael Patrick Shields here in our American Metal Roof studio in the shadow of the Capitol, but heard on stations all across the state of Michigan and seen on Fox 47. If you're watching us this morning, remember we can see you too. Congressman Mike Rogers, the Republican, is from Brighton. He's the chair of the House Intelligence Committee and now the new star of 60 Minutes last night. What did you think?
Well, I was on an airplane, so I didn't get a chance to see it. I understand they edited a lot of
Yeah,
it.
that's what they do.
Yeah.
How long did they talk to you?
About an hour and 15 minutes on tape. And
Was it nerve-wracking? 60 Minutes
It
is
was
known
very
to do
clear
that.
they had an agenda. I will tell you this, because they kept asking the same question in about 14 different ways, and I thought, well, it's clear you want me to answer some way that I'm just not going to answer. But
Yeah.
it was, it was an interesting experience.
That's the trick of 60 Minutes, isn't it? If you saw that live, you'd never sit through it. But because they can snip and cut and tape,
Yeah.
they can ask the same question over and over and over
Yeah,
and over.
they just kept asking in different ways to try to get the right answer. It was a learning experience for me.
You know, there are people who've called this program. There are people online. I've seen all sorts of speculation that this Osama bin Laden murder, this death, this taking him out, assassination, whatever you want to call it,
Justice.
was
I
show
call it
business.
justice.
Justice is fair. These people are saying that it's show business, that he's been dead for 10 years, 9 years, and that it was all staged. It was all a show. Have you heard these rumors?
I have. I find them a bit mystifying. It's clear it was him. He's dead. Unless they've gotten into conspiracy, Al-Qaeda leadership, which announced that it was him and he's dead. His family, which announced, yes, it was him and they were there at the shooting, he's dead. His DNA test, which shows without a doubt that it's him. I have seen the pictures. It's him.
That was my next question. You are one of very few people who were allowed to see these pictures.
Yeah.
If you were given the option, you took the option.
Well, just by quirk, I was at the CIA headquarters the Monday morning following the event, and so I saw him that day.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Gruesome?
Yeah, they're gruesome. I mean, I was a former FBI agent. I have seen
You've
crime
seen it all.
scenes before and gunshot wounds, and it was a gunshot wound to the head. So that, by its definition, is a gruesome thing to see.
Back to the conspiracy theory. There are people who say, well, he was supposedly in kidney failure at the time. Where was the dialysis machine when they raided his compound?
Well, remember, we had information from a variety of sources that he was having some medical problems. That was not clear at all by when they removed him. So there were some things that they thought were happening that were not. One was he was more operational than a lot of people believed, meaning he was helping plan and suggest terrorist events. And number two, he was in probably better health than I think people believe. So we're not sure that if that wasn't a disinformation campaign put out by Al-Qaeda to try to slow the pressure down on him. And it's interesting, that happened right about the time he would have moved into this compound away from the tribal areas. So it was kind of interesting. Now there's some speculation. They're going to go back and try to analyze it if in fact this was a disinformation campaign by Al-Qaeda to try to mislead the fact that he was in ill health and he's not doing anything and you should just really leave him alone.
What about this story that his son escaped? There's a 19-year-old that supposedly the infrared cameras don't show anybody escaping, but is that also going to be some sort of hyperbole that the son of Osama will rise to the throne?
There is a son that was not in the compound who was already out. I mean, that may be more rumor and speculation. From everything I know, there was no one that left the compound other than the people that were there, and all the people that were there are accounted for.
So if he was gone, he's out on the loose, and what is it, the Crown Prince of Terror they're calling him. I mean, if you can be that at 19 years old, Hamza is his name.
Yeah. I mean, Hamza was not there, but there is we don't believe he was there anyway.
Could Al-Qaeda sort of hang their hat on this Hamza and resurface him someday as a spiritual or a terrorist leader?
It's very common in the culture to do
Yeah.
that. He's got a long way to go to get there, and there are with any organization that's hell-bent on self-absorption and power and violence, much like organized crime, they are going to fight amongst themselves about who's next, and we think that's exactly what's going to happen. There's a little posturing because it was so heavily dominated by Egyptians. There's people who think it can't be the Egyptian, which is the number 2 guy, Zawahiri, and there's other ethnic groups are saying, wait a minute, we've been underrepresented, but we've done most of the the bombings, and we should be represented. So, it's good for all of us, because that means they're going to make a mistake, and when they make a mistake, we're going to be there to greet them.
Maybe they could have a primary, and Al Jazeera could get advertising revenue from
There
it.
you go. You need to go work for Al Jazeera, Michael.
You know what? You did say last week, though, that this is a great time to step on their neck.
Yes.
That you could. You seem to indicate that we could actually obliterate Al Qaeda at this moment.
Well, I mean, I misspoke if I said we could do it at this moment. What I meant to say was there's some that are talking about pulling back. This is it. This is victory. It's time to pack it up and come home. Wrong. I think it's the wrong time to do that. We need to be as aggressive as ever to go after the network. And so all of these folks who are sticking their hand up saying, no, I want to be next, we should give them the opportunity to be next in line to a special forces team. And that's exactly what we ought to do, all of them. And when we do that, you take out the leadership, you take out people who understand operational security and how to finance and recruit. And the more you can thin that herd, quite frankly, the dumber they get and the more mistakes that they make. And it gives us, the United States and our allies, an advantage at continuing to disrupt. And because Al Qaeda is going to be around in some way, shape, or form for a very long time. And now it's just, can we contain them where we can always, or most always, get the opportunity to stop an event of which they're planning.
And this information that you've been able to get from the compound, they say it is a treasure trove. Some people are calling it that. It'll take months and months and months to sort through it all. That's the kind of information we're never going to learn about as the general public, I hope.
Well, we would hope so, although there's, the fascination of this thing has allowed a lot of people to give details I would not necessarily talk about and don't think they should be talking about. But it was clearly a working office. That tells you really all you need to know. It was a working office, but they'll have to go through. They're going to have to break codes and other things, and so it's going to take longer than people realize. But at the same time, I think there'll be some value out of it.
In just 40 seconds before the break, he was, Osama bin Laden, speculating, we're told, to the number of Americans he'd have to kill before we pulled out of the Middle East. That was flawed thinking to begin with, because we weren't going to give up, right?
That's correct. But they argue, they looked at our political calculus, and they saw, which is very interesting to me, that they saw the political debates at home and used that to their advantage in planning events.
Figuring we were splintered and
absolutely. Absolutely.
Fascinating stuff. So the information was going both ways. Congressman Mike Rogers is the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Republican from Brighton. We're back in just 3 minutes. It's Michael Patrick Shields on Pure Michigan Monday.